Well, as a matter of personal privilege, I'm going to give you the opportunity to respond to David Axelrod, who said, you know, for all this talk about wait till we come in and shake up the lobbyists, but the campaign team of McCain is filled with lobbyists, or in your case, former lobbyists. How do you respond?
Oh, I think that, you know, it's just more the same from David Axelrod. I mean, they've been running against ghosts of the past all along, and I think it just shows that they don't really have anything to talk about. If they want to run against Rick Davis or our campaign staff, let them. I think it's hilarious. I think it's a wonderful distraction from the real issues that we're trying to debate. It's a classic example of a campaign that doesn't have anything else to say, though they pick on staff.
Let's turn to the choice of Sarah Palin as the running mate. What does she add to the ticket? Does she bring new states into play? How are you going to use her?
Well, I think she is exactly what we needed to really focus the public's attention on the fact that the brand of John McCain, the maverick, the independent, the guy who's been railing against corruption and ethics abuses in Washington, the guy who wants to reform government, and she reinforces that. And it is a wonderful thing for our campaign to be able to get this kind of attention on our ticket for coming out of the convention. We've had wonderful events, fantastic rallies. People are excited about this ticket. And let me tell you, this is a ticket that will govern Washington.
But aren't you vastly exaggerating her record as a reformer? Take a look. As mayor of Wasilla, she hired a Washington lobbyist and got $27 million in earmarks. And in her less than 2 years as governor, Alaska has asked for $589 million in pork barrel projects. Her record as a reformer, particularly on the issue of earmarks, is far from clean.
Well, let's be clear about this. When she was mayor of Wasilla, there were already people in place who were getting those grants from the federal government, and small towns do a lot of that kind of activity because mayors
hired a Washington lobbyist who was close to
Washington who was already involved in that. And
no,
so,
she hired.
But let me also point out these pork barrel projects that you talk about. These were not projects that she tried to get. These were projects that the Republican establishment in Alaska, who she campaigned against and beat many times over, were the ones picking those grants up. Let me remind you, she vetoed more bills. She cut back on more pork barrel spending in the state legislature than any previous governor. She converted that legislature into reform because she passed ethics reforms and corruption reforms. She railed against the establishment in Alaska and was able to accomplish great things, like passing a significant energy bill that allowed them to create a natural gas pipeline. These are all things that a true reformer is able to accomplish. So, you know, I don't disagree with the fact that there were pork barrel projects coming to Alaska, but not from her. Within the state legislature, she beat back those efforts.
Wait a minute. First of all,
she's not a federal.
As governor, Alaska, during her 1.5, 2 years as governor, Alaska continued to get more federal money for pork barrel projects per capita than any state in the country. And she was. This works better if I get to ask the question. And she supported the bridge to nowhere. And it was only after the federal government dropped it out and killed it, the Congress killed it, that she then opposed it. And in fact, she still got the money for the approach, the ramp to the bridge to nowhere.
Congress didn't beat back the bridge to nowhere.
I know, but she accepted the money.
That funding was in the grant, and she said, I'm not spending that money. And what they did, they took a $500 million bridge and she turned it into a $2 million ferry. And that's what she did on her own without any help from anybody else.
Well, actually, it was Congress that killed the money for the bridge to nowhere. But let me move on to something else. Governor Palin has given some very good speeches this week, and I think everybody, Republican or Democrat, would say that she was very effective at the Republican convention. She has not answered a single question from the national media. When is she going to agree to an interview? She'll agree to an interview when we think it's time and when she feels comfortable doing it. Look, your network last night had a wonderful special on. Greta Van Susteren had a intimate portrayal of this mayor or this governor when she was in Alaska still and not on our ticket. It was a wonderful look inside of who Sarah Palin is, a working mother, you know, a brave and courageous politician, and I think you all did a great job of doing that. It's not like there's no information out there about Sarah Palin, the governor, the mother, the agent for change. I don't think our campaign is the campaign that has not given an immense amount of access to the press. That's the Obama campaign. Why is she scared to answer questions?
She's not scared to answer questions. But you know what? We run our campaign, not the news media. And we'll do things on our timetable. And honestly, this last week was not an exemplary moment for the news media.
I understand that.
And so why would we want to throw Sarah Palin into a cycle of piranhas called the news media that have nothing better to ask questions about than her personal life and her children? And I think our attitude would be, why don't we let that pass until we expose her to that kind of...
I think there are legitimate questions that, and it doesn't have to be a huge news conference. I'm not telling you how to run your campaign. Sure. There are legitimate questions about is she or is she not ready to be commander-in-chief? If last week didn't work, why not this week?
Sarah Palin will have the opportunity to speak to the American people. She just gave a speech to 40 million Americans in her convention.
But that was reading a script. How about answering questions?
She's in the process of getting to know people out on the campaign trail, and she will do interviews, but she'll do them on the terms and conditions of which the campaign decides that it's ready to do it. And Chris, all due respect, I mean, the information that the news media has been putting out on Sarah Palin is not what I would call objective journalism. So until at which point in time we feel like the news media is going to treat her with some level of respect and deference, I think it'd be foolhardy to put her out into that kind of environment.
Well, you just said that what a great job Fox News did with this piece last night. You just praised it.
Absolutely.
My only point is there are legitimate questions to ask her, whether it's Fox or anybody else, about is she ready to be president? What does she know about foreign policy?
Absolutely. No question about that. And she will be available to the news media when and if we decide that that is going to be the case.
So you're not at this point willing to say when?
No.